Have you ever noticed that the loudest person in an argument is rarely the one in control? While most people believe that winning means speaking louder, reacting faster, or proving a point, the truth is far more powerful. Real strength is revealed in the moments when you choose not to lose yourself. There is something deeply attractive about a person who remains calm while emotions are running high, because calmness sends a message that words never can. It says, "I know who I am, I don't need chaos to prove my value." And whether people admit it or not, emotional stability has a magnetic effect that anger can never compete with. The greatest shift in any relationship doesn't happen when someone finally finds the perfect argument. It happens when one person refuses to let emotions control their behavior. That quiet confidence changes the entire emotional atmosphere, turning tension into curiosity, frustration into respect, and conflict into a moment that reveals true character. Today, we're going to uncover why calmness becomes the most powerful attraction trigger during arguments, why emotional control is often mistaken for emotional weakness, and why the person who stays composed almost always leaves the deepest psychological impression. Have you ever wondered why some people walk away from an argument with more respect, more influence, and even more attraction than they had before a single word was spoken? It seems almost impossible in a world that glorifies loud opinions, emotional outbursts, and the desperate need to win every disagreement. Most people believe attraction grows through compliments, grand gestures, or endless attention. But psychology reveals something far more fascinating. The moments that shape the emotional foundation of a relationship are rarely the peaceful ones. They are the difficult moments when emotions are tested, expectations collide, and two people are forced to reveal who they truly are beneath the surface. Anyone can appear confident when everything is going well. Anyone can seem charming when they are receiving affection, agreement, and admiration. The real measure of emotional strength is discovered when tension enters the room, when disappointment replaces comfort, and when every instinct tells you to react immediately. That is the exact moment when calmness becomes more than just a personality trait. It becomes a silent language of confidence, self-respect, emotional intelligence, and inner security. It communicates something that no rehearsed sentence, expensive gift, or carefully crafted image could ever express. It quietly says that your emotions belong to you. Your peace cannot be stolen by another person's temporary frustration, and your identity is not dependent on winning an argument or proving someone wrong. People often underestimate the psychological impact of emotional stability because they are too busy focusing on words. Yet, the human mind has always been far more influenced by behavior than by conversation. Long after specific sentences are forgotten, people remember how someone made them feel. They remember who remained composed while everyone else was losing control. They remember who created safety instead of chaos. They remember who listened instead of attacking, who paused instead of exploding, and who chose understanding over the temporary satisfaction of being right. That kind of emotional discipline leaves an impression that lingers long after the disagreement has ended, because it reflects a level of maturity that cannot be imitated for very long. calmness is not silence born from fear, nor is it the avoidance of difficult conversations. It is the confidence to know that strength does not need to announce itself. It is the ability to slow your emotions before they become your actions, to think before you speak, and to recognize that protecting your peace is often more valuable than protecting your ego. In a culture that constantly rewards immediate reactions, instant messages, emotional revenge, and dramatic confrontations, genuine calmness feels rare. And whatever is rare naturally becomes valuable. That value is what people instinctively notice, even if they cannot explain it. They may believe they are reacting to your words, but in reality, they are responding to your emotional presence. Your ability to remain grounded creates an invisible contrast against emotional chaos. And contrast is one of the strongest psychological forces behind lasting attraction. When one person refuses to become emotionally unstable, the entire emotional dynamic begins to change, because calmness has a remarkable way of slowing down conflict before conflict gains complete control. It creates space for reflection instead of regret, understanding instead of assumption, and connection instead of unnecessary distance. The greatest mistake people make during arguments is believing that louder emotions create stronger influence, when in reality the opposite is often true. Emotional control demonstrates self-mastery, and self-mastery has always been one of the most respected qualities in human psychology, because it communicates that your actions are guided by principles rather than impulses. That quiet confidence cannot be borrowed, performed, or faked forever. It comes from a deep understanding that your value does not rise when someone agrees with you, nor does it disappear when someone challenges your perspective. The calmer you become, the more difficult it becomes for negativity to control the direction of the conversation. And that emotional consistency gradually transforms the way people see you. Instead of appearing unpredictable, you become dependable. Instead of appearing reactive, you become thoughtful. Instead of creating emotional exhaustion, you create emotional safety. And emotional safety is one of the strongest foundations upon which respect, trust, and genuine attraction are built. The fascinating reality is that most arguments are never truly about the issue that appears on the surface. The forgotten text message, the cancelled plan, the misunderstanding, the disagreement over priorities, or the careless comment are often nothing more than triggers. Beneath those visible conflicts lie deeper emotional questions that people rarely ask directly. They silently wonder whether they matter, whether they are respected, whether they are understood, and whether they are emotionally safe with the person standing in front of them. When someone reacts with anger, defensiveness, or emotional chaos, those silent questions remain unanswered, and the disagreement becomes larger than it ever needed to be. But when someone remains calm without becoming cold, composed without becoming distant, and confident without becoming arrogant, the emotional atmosphere begins to shift in a completely different direction. Calmness communicates security, and security is something the human mind naturally seeks, because uncertainty creates emotional tension, while stability creates emotional relief. People may not consciously recognize this process as it happens, yet their subconscious notices every signal. They notice the steady tone of your voice, the patience in your responses, the willingness to listen before speaking, and the confidence to pause instead of reacting. These small moments seem insignificant individually, but together they create a powerful psychological impression that often becomes far more memorable than the argument itself. Long after the disagreement has ended, what remains in memory is not every sentence that was exchanged, but the emotional experience of being with someone who refused to let conflict destroy their character. There is also an important distinction between calmness and emotional suppression, because many people confuse the two. Remaining calm does not mean pretending that nothing hurts. It does not mean accepting disrespect, avoiding difficult conversations, or sacrificing your own needs simply to keep the peace. That is not emotional strength. It is emotional avoidance. Genuine calmness allows you to express disappointment without hostility, establish boundaries without aggression, and communicate truth without turning the conversation into a battlefield. The strongest individuals are not those who never feel anger. They are the ones who refuse to let anger become the author of their decisions. Every emotion has a purpose, but emotions were never designed to become permanent leaders. They are signals, not rulers. The moment emotions take complete control, judgment begins to disappear, and people start saying things they never truly believed simply because they wanted to win a temporary emotional battle. Unfortunately, those victories often become long-term losses because words spoken in uncontrolled moments have a way of lingering in memory long after apologies have been offered. Calmness protects not only the relationship, but also your own integrity, because it prevents temporary emotions from creating permanent consequences. One of the greatest misconceptions in relationships is the belief that emotional intensity creates emotional connection. While passion certainly has its place, constant emotional drama slowly exhausts the nervous system. The human brain cannot thrive in an environment where every disagreement feels like a crisis. Over time, unpredictability replaces comfort, anxiety replaces trust, and emotional fatigue begins to replace attraction. People often believe they are fighting for love, when in reality they are fighting against their own emotional impulses. Real connection grows in an environment where honesty exists without fear, where disagreement does not automatically become rejection, and where two people can experience different opinions without feeling like enemies. That environment is created by emotional consistency, not emotional volatility. Calmness becomes attractive because it offers something increasingly rare in modern relationships: emotional predictability. It tells the other person that disagreements do not automatically threaten the relationship, that problems can be discussed without becoming personal attacks, and that conflict does not have to destroy closeness. This sense of stability allows emotional intimacy to grow because people naturally lower their defenses when they no longer expect every conversation to become another exhausting battle. Psychology has repeatedly shown that human beings unconsciously mirror the emotional energy around them. When one person raises their voice, the other often feels an instinctive urge to do the same. When frustration increases, frustration is frequently returned with even greater intensity. Conflict begins to feed itself like a fire consuming dry wood, becoming larger simply because neither side chooses to interrupt the cycle. But calmness introduces something entirely different. Instead of adding fuel to emotional tension, it quietly removes oxygen from the conflict. The slower your breathing becomes, the more measured your words become. The more measured your words become, the less emotional resistance the other person experiences. Gradually, the conversation begins to slow down, and within that slower pace, logic has an opportunity to return. This does not happen because calmness magically solves every disagreement. It happens because calmness creates the conditions in which understanding becomes possible. Understanding cannot exist where emotional survival has taken over, because the brain becomes focused on defending itself instead of processing information. The moment emotional safety returns, genuine communication becomes possible again. That is why the calmest person often becomes the most influential person in the room. Not because they dominate others, but because they create an environment where productive conversation can finally begin. Perhaps the most overlooked truth is that calmness reveals something far greater than emotional control. It reveals self-respect. People who constantly react to every criticism, every misunderstanding, and every emotional challenge often communicate a hidden message without realizing it. They reveal that their emotional state depends entirely on external circumstances. Their peace can be interrupted by a careless sentence. Their confidence can disappear because of another person's opinion, and their identity becomes tied to whether they are being validated in that particular moment. A person who has developed genuine emotional stability operates from a completely different mindset. Their confidence is not borrowed from praise, nor is it destroyed by disagreement. They understand that another person's temporary emotions do not have to become their permanent reality. This perspective creates an invisible strength that others naturally notice because true confidence never demands attention. It quietly earns respect through consistency. The individual who remains centered during emotional storms communicates that inner peace has become a personal responsibility rather than something handed over to someone else's behavior. That realization changes every interaction because it removes the desperate need to control the other person's emotions. Instead of trying to force understanding, they patiently create space for understanding to develop naturally. Instead of fighting for dominance, they focus on preserving dignity, because dignity survives long after arguments have been forgotten. Ironically, the less obsessed someone becomes with winning every disagreement, the more influence they often gain within the relationship. People instinctively trust those who appear emotionally grounded because stability creates a feeling of security that emotional unpredictability never can. When your words are supported by composure rather than emotional pressure, they carry greater weight because calmness gives every sentence credibility. It demonstrates that your thoughts have been chosen carefully instead of being thrown into the conversation by temporary frustration. Over time, this emotional consistency becomes part of your identity. Others begin expecting wisdom instead of impulsiveness, patience instead of hostility, and thoughtful responses instead of emotional explosions. That expectation alone transforms the emotional dynamic because people prepare themselves differently when they know they are speaking with someone who refuses to abandon self-control. They become more willing to listen because they no longer feel the need to protect themselves from unnecessary emotional attacks. In this way, calmness becomes more than an attractive quality. It becomes a form of quiet leadership that inspires respect without demanding obedience. The strongest presence in any difficult conversation is rarely the loudest voice or the sharpest argument. More often, it is the steady presence of someone who understands that real power is not measured by how successfully they can control another person's emotions, but by how consistently they can govern their own. That kind of emotional discipline cannot be purchased, rehearsed, or performed for long, because it grows through repeated choices made in difficult moments. Every time you choose patience over impulse, reflection over reaction, and understanding over unnecessary conflict, you strengthen an inner foundation that becomes increasingly visible to everyone around you. Eventually, people stop noticing only what you say and begin remembering who you are whenever life becomes emotionally complicated. Because character is always revealed most clearly when circumstances become challenging, and calmness remains one of the clearest expressions of genuine inner strength. The greatest lesson is not that calmness guarantees every relationship will survive, because it will not. Some people will still misunderstand you. Some people will still choose pride over honesty, emotion over reason, and temporary satisfaction over lasting connection. But your responsibility has never been to control another person's choices. Your responsibility has always been to protect your own character. The moment you stop measuring your strength by how loudly you can argue and begin measuring it by how peacefully you can respond, everything changes. You no longer become a prisoner of someone else's emotions. You become the author of your own. That is where real confidence begins, and that is where lasting respect is born. Remember this carefully. Anyone can remain pleasant when life is easy. Anyone can appear mature when there is nothing to challenge them. But only a person with genuine emotional discipline can remain composed when disappointment, criticism, and misunderstanding arrive without warning. That is the moment when character speaks louder than personality. That is the moment when your actions reveal the truth about your inner world. Every argument becomes an opportunity to prove not how powerful your words are, but how powerful your self-control has become. Every disagreement gives you a choice between protecting your ego or protecting your peace. And the people who consistently choose peace rarely lose themselves, even when they lose a conversation. Never forget that attraction built on excitement can disappear overnight. Attraction built on appearance can fade with time. And attraction built on constant attention can weaken the moment attention is gone. But attraction built on emotional security, quiet confidence, unwavering self-respect, and consistent composure grows stronger because it is rooted in something deeper than emotion. It is rooted in trust. People may forget your arguments. They may forget the exact words you used. They may even forget who was technically right or wrong. But they will never forget how safe, respected, and emotionally understood they felt in your presence. That memory leaves a mark that lasts far longer than any temporary victory. So the next time life places you in the middle of conflict, do not ask yourself how you can win the argument. Ask yourself how you can leave the conversation without losing your dignity, your integrity, or your peace. Because the strongest person is never the one who shouts the loudest or delivers the harshest comeback. The strongest person is the one who refuses to let anger make decisions that wisdom should make. Guard your peace as if it were your greatest possession, because in many ways it is. Master your emotions before they master you. Let your calmness become your confidence. Let your confidence become your character. And let your character become the silent force that no amount of chaos can ever shake. In a world that constantly rewards reactions, choose the rare courage of emotional control, because true power has never been found in raising your voice. True power has always been found in mastering yourself. And a person who has mastered themselves has already won the most important battle they will ever face.